So I think I mentioned earlier, I was reading about Tate and his alleged crimes in Romania, but also became aware of the allegations against him concerning the rape and sexual assault of women here in the UK. And I reached out to the journalists who've been reporting on that and asked them to pass on that if the women wanted to talk to me, I'd be very happy to do so and see if we could provide them any support. And what that led to is our understanding of how those women have been terribly let down by the UK authorities. That's both the police, so that would be the Hertfordshire Constabulary, who were investigating the criminal complaints that they filed, and this was back in 2014. And I think that's very important because a lot of what Tate and his supporters rely upon is saying somehow that this is a shakedown. This is all about going after a man who's so-called rich and successful, and they're only interested in bringing these allegations and these claims because of his fame and because they're just trying to get money out of him. I mean, it's an absolute nonsense. So they brought criminal complaints in 2014 with the UK police, and as I said, specifically the Hertfordshire police, and that will become important in a moment. And interdependently, those complaints were filed. These victims, two of the victims knew each other, but the other two weren't aware of the other victims or otherwise. So again, any allegations that there's some form of collusion, again, is a complete nonsense. And all of these complaints were of rape and sexual assault. And the through line of all of these complaints is that Tate would throttle these women until they were unconscious and the blood vessels burst in their eyes, and then would proceed to have sex with them. I mean, that's not something you make up in a vacuum.
No.
And to have four women come forward and say the same thing, that's powerful.
Yes.
Yet the UK authorities, the police took 6 years to investigate, which really meant that they conducted, in my opinion, no investigation at all, or at least not an effective one. The women's concerns were, in my opinion, pushed aside, weren't taken seriously. It went to the Crown Prosecution Service, which is the equivalent of your DA's office, and quite bizarrely, in my mind, the Crown Prosecution Service made a decision not to prosecute. That was in 2019. And that coincided with the Tates leaving the UK and I would say fleeing to Romania. I think they left Britain because of the allegations against them, and I believe they left Britain because they knew that there were other allegations and other criminal complaints that had been made or would be made against them, and that's why he left.
He couldn't do that in Britain, and so he went to Romania to do it there and then profit on it.
I think that's what the evidence demonstrates.
Yeah,
I think that's correct. But the problem with this is, we met with the British police, and their view, at least what they said to us, was that, look, we felt there was enough evidence to prosecute. We passed it to the Crown Prosecution Service. Go speak to them. We don't know why they made the decision not to prosecute. Last year, we went to the CPS and asked them to revisit their decision, and they declined to do so, which I find personally quite incredible. Not least because of the evidence against Tate in respect of the allegations made by the women of rape and sexual assault. One of the women has got text messages saying, "I love raping you." I mean, I'm not sure what more the police would want in that respect. Of course, by itself, that wouldn't be enough. But given the testimony of the victim herself, other corroborating evidence, the fact that other women have come forward and made criminal complaints, the fact that the allegations are that he has an MO of strangling women until they pass out unconscious, and that women independently have made the same allegations. The fact that one of the victims witnessed the rape of another. You start to question why the CPS did not proceed with the prosecution. And my personal opinion is I think there was, unfortunately, I think there was a degree of institutionalized misogyny. I think there was a lack of understanding of coercive control, again, in relationships, which is something we're only really coming to understand now, I think, post its criminalization, and it wasn't criminalized until I think 2016. I think that's right.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think the CPS dropped the ball. And I think the reason, when we went to them last year and asked them to revisit the decision, that they declined to do so, I stress this is my opinion, but I have reasonable grounds to believe it. I think the reason they declined to do that was a political one, because if they had changed their mind, that would be admitting to a degree that they'd made a mistake.
Right.
And if they admitted they made a mistake, then they're responsible for allowing Tate to flee to Romania.
Yeah. Yes.
And commit those crimes of which those alleged crimes of which he is now being prosecuted for. And I just don't think that's something the British authorities felt that they could do. And what I would just quite say simply about that is, because of the failings of the UK police and the Crown Prosecution Service, the women felt they had no other choice but to take matters into their own hands by taking private legal action through the civil courts.
Very good.
And that's the reason they've done so. It's not for money. It's not for compensation. It's for justice and accountability, and it's to have their stories heard in court.
Yes.
And to have the evidence which has been amassed in respect of that case ruled on by a judge. And that's the reason for doing so.